formed by the governments of Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand through the Bangkok Declaration, which was signed by the foreign ministers of the Asian countries on 8th August of 1967. Since then, the membership has been expanded. Now it's at 10. So, if you see, the present members of ASEAN is 10 member states. So, the 10 member states are, one is Indonesia, another one is Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Brunei, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia. So, the motto of this Asian organization is one vision, one identity, and one community. So, it is established for the purpose of this unity formula. So, 8th August is observed as Asian Day, and also this secretariat is placed in Jakarta, which is belongs to Indonesia. So, if we see the genesis of ASEAN, in 1967, ASEAN was established with the signing of ASEAN Declaration, that what we called it as also Bangkok Declaration by its founding fathers. So the founding fathers of this ASEAN are Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. So Vietnam and in 1990s, the membership doubled after the changing conditions in the region following the end of the Vietnam War in 1975 and the Cold War in 1991. Cold War means there is no direct war between the superpowers in the international scene. The only USA and USSR are making these Cold War situations with the all other countries. So these USA and USSR never participate in any direct war between these two superpowers. So the Cold War, which means we will call it as a indirect war. It's a ideological war, ideological clash, or ideological misunderstanding between these two superpowers, because those two superpowers, USA and USSR, adapted to different ideologies, which is America used capitalist ideology and Soviet Union used socialist ideology. So there is a clash between these two superpowers. Uh, so up to 1991, which means disintegration of Soviet Union, up to the 1992, there is always a Cold War between these two superpowers. So after the disintegration of USSR, the Cold War has been ended, and USA become as an only one superpower in the international relations. So there are several wars, direct wars happened with the support of these two superpowers. So if we see the objectives of the organization of ASEAN, it is established to accelerate economic growth, social progress, and cultural development for a prosperous and peaceful community of Southeast Asian nations. And also, it established for the purpose of to promote regional peace and stability through abiding respect for justice and the rule of law and adherence to the principle of United Nations Charter. As we discussed after the establishment of United Nations Organization, the United Nations Organization's primary motto is to protect international peace and security, to maintain international peace and security. So after that, many regional organizations, many international institutions also established, and also they must follow the principles of United Nations Charter. So as like these regional organizations like SARC and Asians also, they must follow these United Nations Charter principles, and also to promote active collaboration and mutual assistance on matters of common interest in the fields of economy, social, cultural, and scientific and administrative fields. So, which means The within these regional organizations, the member states must support and must encourage their development of economy and must respect each other's cultural values and social conditions, and they must exchange their support to encourage their science and technology sector. So to collaborate more effectively for the greater utilization of agriculture and industries, the expansion of their trade, the improvement of transportation and communication facilities, and the raising of the living standards of the people. So within this organization, Asia is having 10 members, right? In these 10 member states, they support each other. They support each other for their development in the areas of agriculture and business sector, even trade relationship. Without any tax system, they may export and import the goods and services without paying any taxes. So the free trade system is established within the region. So as we discussed in previous calls also, the SARC also used to encourage economic development in their member states, because most of the nations in these regional organizations are under the category of developing nations. So most of the nations, except developed nations, are actively participated in United Nations. Apart from that, developed nations, most of the nations, most of the third world nations also established these type of regional organizations to support themselves. So ASEAN also support their member states in these fields of economy and industries and development in all the categories like communication and transportation system. So to promote Southeast Asian studies. So Asian in this aspect, the Asian also established a South Asian University, which is located in New Delhi, India. So to promote South Asian studies, so to maintain close and beneficial cooperation with existing international and regional organizations. So apart from this establishment of this regional organization, every regional organization is established for the purpose of cooperation between their member states, and also they support each other, even in other organization, even other organizations also, they must support each other. So if we see the fundamental principles of this organization is, they must follow the member states after the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in South Asia of 1976. All the member states must follow these principles, which are, one is mutual respect for the independence, sovereignty, equality, territorial integrity, and national identity of all the nations, and also the right of every state to lead its natural existence free from external interference, subversion, or coercion. So as we discussed, after the establishment of United Nations organization, after getting independence, after ending of Second World War, most of the nations has been made their individual foreign policies and individual trade relations with other states. So, in that aspect, every nation must support and must encourage in these areas, but they should not enter into their sovereignty or their internal affairs. So the non-interference in the internal affairs is one of important aspect in these international relations. So if you see, no country can enter into other countries administrative matters or political matters. If you see, if we take an example of India, any other country other than India, no one is entering into our political system. No one can motivate, or no one can fund our political parties. No one can motivate, or no one can change any uh, funding or anything. They may not enter into our Indian state. So because of the making of our foreign policy system, so the Asian is also established for the settlement of differences and disputes by peaceful manner. If we see, every country is having several disputes and conflicts with other countries or neighboring countries. So the Asian is supported to uh, solve these problems, which is in peaceful manner. So they can encourage or they can mediate that conflict zone with a peaceful manner. So the Asian is supported to conclude this conflict and disputes with the member states in the peaceful manner. So they never supported to never supposed to go to the war. So because they must follow UN Charter's principles, they must follow to maintain the international peace and security in this regard. So Asian also is there for the protection of this peace system, and also reunification of the threat or use of force, even effective cooperation among themselves in the within the region, within the regional organization. If we see the institution mechanism, the Asian chairmanship rotates annually based on the alphabetical order in the English names of member states. The Asian Summit also, the supreme policy making body of Asian is the highest level of authority in Asian. The summit sets the direction for Asian policies and objectives. Under the charter, the summit meets twice a year. If we see the Asian ministerial councils also there, there are four councils are there. One is Asian Coordinating Council, second one is Asian Political Security Community Council, and third one is Asian Economic Community Council, and fourth one is Socio-Cultural Community Council. So the primary mode of decision making in Asian is consultation and concession. So consensus. So however, the charter enshrines the principles of Asian 10. So this means that if all member states are in agreement, a formula for flexible participation may be used so that the members who ready may go ahead, while members who need more time for implementation may apply a flexible timeline. So the strengths and the opportunities of Asian also there. Asian commands far greater influence on Asia Pacific trade, political, and security issues than its members could achieve individually. And also, there is demographic dividend also there. It constitutes third largest population in the world, of which more than half is below 30 years of age. If we see the economy status of this regional organization, it is the third largest market in the world, larger than European Union and North American markets, and also sixth largest economy in the world, third in Asia. If we see the free trade agreements with China, Japan, South Korea, India, Australia, and New Zealand, and also fourth most popular investment destination in globally, and also Asian's share of global exports has also risen from only 2% when it is established. Now it is increased 7% by 2016, indicating the rising importance of trade of Asians' economic prospects. So the Asians' single aviation market and open skies policies have increased its transport and connectivity potential. So even Asian has contributed to regional stability by building much needed norms and fostering a neutral government to address shared challenges. So there are several challenges also there for this regional organization, especially regional imbalances in economic and social status of individual markets is important. Gap between rich and poor Asian member states remains very large, and they have a mixed record on income inequality. If we see, while Singapore boasts the highest GDP per capita, nearly $53,000 in the study says in 2016, then Cambodia's per capita GDP is the lowest at less than $1,300 only. So many regional initiatives were not able to be incorporated into national plans as the less developed countries faced resource constraints to implement the regional commitments. And also, the members' political systems are equally mixed with democracies, communist, and authoritarian states. And also, while the South China Sea is the main issue exposing the organization's rifts, and also Asian has been divided many major issues like human rights. For example, crackdowns in Myanmar against the Rohingyas is one of the best example for this human rights issue. Inability to negotiate a unified approach with regards to China, particularly in response to its widespread maritime claims in the South China Sea. And also, the emphasis on consensus sometimes become the chief drawback. Difficult problems have been avoided rather than confronted. There is no central mechanism to enforce complaints, inefficient dispute settlement mechanism, whether it be in the economic or political spheres. If we see the relationship between the India and Asian, India's relationship with Asian is a key pillar for her foreign policy and the foundation of Act East policy. India has a separate mission to Asian and the East Asian states in Jakarta. India and Asian already has 25 years of dialogue partnership, 15 years of summit level interaction, and 5 years of strategic partnership with Asia. If we see the economic cooperation with Asia, Asian regional organization, Asian is India's fourth largest trading partner, and also, India's trade with Asian stands at approximately 10.6% of India's overall trade. India's export to Asian stands at 11.28% of our total exports. The Asian Indian Free Trade Area has been completed. Asian Indian Business Council was set up in 2003 to bring key private sector players from India and the Asian countries in a single platform. And also, there is a programs to boost people-to-people interaction with Asian in the fields of socio-cultural cooperation, such as inviting Asian students to India, special training courses for Asian diplomats, exchange of parliamentarians, etc. And also, there is financial assistance has been provided to Asian countries from the following funds: Asian Indian Cooperation Fund, Asian India Science and Technology Development Fund, Asian India Green Fund, and also many declarations, many summits also happened with this regional organization. So one is Delhi Declaration is to identify cooperation in the maritime domain as the key area of cooperation under the Asian India strategic partnership. And also Delhi dialogue happened annual track of 1.5 event for discussing political security and economic issues between Asian and India. So the relationship between these Asian organization and India is very important. So this association is which promotes intergovernmental cooperation and facilitates economic, political, security, military, educational, and socio-cultural integration among its members and other Asian states. So Indian Asian relations can be traced to historical and cultural relations. So even Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam spread from the India to the region, and the imprint of this shared cultural heritage is also seen in art forms and architecture. Despite this, after independence, India did not have good relations with Asian because Asian was under the US camp, and also during the Cold War period, as we discussed, Cold War means the only ideological differences. So after the end of the Cold War, India Asian relations have evolved from just economic ties to strategic heights owing to common threats and aspirations. So, India and this organization are natural partners in desire to create free and inclusive regional architecture. So, there is Lookist policy has been a major pillar for India's foreign policy since the early 1990s, which is initiated by Prime Minister PV Narasimha Rao. The principal aim of the policy was to pursue a policy of active engagement with countries of Southeast Asia. Two major regions are responsible for India's Lookist policy. They are collapse of Soviet Union and balance of payment crisis. So the initial focus of this Lookist policy was on establishing trade and economic linkages with Southeast Asian countries, and for achieving this aim, even it went ahead to foster greater trade and economic linkages with Asian countries. So in this period, India became a sectoral dialogue under this partner of ASEAN in 1992 and then a summit level partner in 2002. So trade between India and ASEAN multiplied fourthfold. So the second phase of Lookist policy focused on deepening economic ties, strategic and domestic dimensions, while the focus of first phase of Lookist policy was primarily economic engagement. So the most of the focused areas of cooperation is especially economic area and some sorts of connectivity issues between the member states, and also the security relationship within the member states, and also they are respecting each other's culture and heritage issues. So if we see the region within the regional organization mentioned in many Indian classical works like Ramayana, while Indian merchants began bringing Hinduism and Buddhism across the sea by the first century AD, influencing the development of kingdoms and empires like as, Srivijaya in Sumatra and the Majapahit in Java, Bali, and the Philippine, etc. So Hindu religious symbols are very popular in Indonesia. In the medieval periods, Indian kings had considerable influence in this region as the Hindu temples of Borobudur in Java, Indonesia, and Angkor Wat temple in Cambodia bear testimony to it. Also, there was a flourishing trade relationship between the two regions. So there are several challenges also there within these regional organizations. Uh, so this is the entire objectives and structure of this Asian organization. So we have one more important regional organization is European Union. So European Union also one of the regional organization. It is also established for the purpose of regional cooperation. So at present, this European Union is a group of 28 countries that operate as a cohesive economic and political bloc. So 19 of these countries are euro as their official currency. 9 European Union members: Bulgaria, Croatia, Czech Republic, Denmark, Hungary, Poland, Romania, Sweden, and United Kingdom do not use the euro as their currency. So the European Union grew out a desire to form a single European political entity to end centuries of warfare among the European countries that culminated with World War II and decimated much of the continent. So the European Union has developed an integral single market through standardized system. So the European Union has several goals. So Asian and SARC, every regional organization has its own goals. So that's like even European Union also have several goals like it is established to promote peace, values and well-being of all citizens of European Union, and also it is offer freedom, security, and justice without internal borders. So, sustainable development based on balanced economic growth and price stability, a highly competitive market economy with full employment and social progress and environmental protection. And also, this organization is promote scientific and technology based progress, and it is enhances economic and social territorial cohesion and solidarity among European Union countries. And also, it is established for to respect its rich cultural and linguistic diversity. And also, it is established an economic and monetary union whose currency is euro. So, if we see the establishment of European Union before the emergence of this European Union after the World War II, European integration was seen as the cure to the excessive nationalism which had devastated the continent. So many meetings and many summits happened to create this European Union. Uh, Primarily, the uh, Mauritius Treaty 1992, also called the Treaty of European Union, was signed on 7th February 1992 by the members of the European Community. It received a great push with the end of the Cold War. So after the end of the Cold War, there are many changes also happened in this international relations system. So So this agreement invested to the European community with the broader authority, which included formal control of the community policies on education, development, consumer protection, and public health. It also gave the European community an increased role in social and economic cohesion, environmental protection, and technological research, along with European Union citizenship. So, if we see the structure and composition, the European Union's institutional framework comprises 7 institutions. So, they are the European Parliament, the European Council, the Council of the European Union, the European Commission, the Court of Justice of the European Union, the European Central Bank, the Court of Auditors. So, these 7 institutions are working for the maintenance of this regional organization. So the European Council is a collective body that defines the European Union's overall political directions and priorities. It comprises of the heads of the state or governments of the European Union member states, along with the President of the European Council and the President of the European Commission. So the High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy also takes part in the meetings. So the decisions of its summits are adopted by consensus. So the European Parliament also, it is the only parliamentary institute of the European Union that is directly elected by the European Union citizens aged 18 years and older. Together with the Council of European Union, it exercises the legislative function of the European Union. So these institutions are work for the to perform their functions in peaceful manner. So if we see the functions of this European Union, the European Union's law and regulations is meant to create a cohesive economic entity of its countries so that goods can flow freely across the borders. So as we discussed, every regional organization is to support each other's economic development. As we discussed, Asian, SARC, there also there is no tax for imports and exports within the regional organizations. Here in European Union also, every country can flow their goods freely without any tax at borders, so of its members nations, without tariffs, with the ease of one currency and the creation of one enlarged labor pool, which creates a more efficient distribution and use of labor. So there is a pooling of financial resources so that nations can be bailed out or lent money for investment. And also European Union's expectations in areas such as human rights and the environment have political implications for member countries. Union can exact a heavy political cost such as saver cutbacks and the austerity budget on its members as a condition of giving aid. So this is a great experiment really in cooperation among nations who wish to be economically unified, ceding a little political and national power as possible. So the European Union maintained trade relations with member states was European Union's founding principle. So this is possible thanks to the single market. Beyond its borders, the European Union is also committed in liberalizing world trade system. So the Union is the largest trade bloc in the world. It is the world's biggest exporter of manufactured goods and services and the biggest import market for over 100 countries. So the European Union is also committed to helping victims of man-made or natural disasters worldwide and supports over 120 million people each year. And also the European Union plays an important role in diplomacy and works to foster stability, security and prosperity, democracy, fundamental freedoms, and the rule of law at international level. And also there are several challenges and reforms also made by this regional organization. So the European Union is no longer self-evident that all old member states will stay in the Union. The Treaty of Lisbon gave the members the right to leave the European Union. So the financial crisis has hit Greece so hard that many people have predicted for a long time that the country will exit from the Union. Layoffs, redundancies, migration of jobs to countries where labor is cheap affect the daily lives of European citizens. So the European Union is expected to find solutions to economic problems and employment. There is also demand for standard labor agreements on terms of employment and working conditions that would apply across Europe and worldwide. So, as a member of the World Trade Organization, the European Union is a position to influence developments worldwide. So the European Union is a global leader in the development of key enabling technologies. However, European Union's records in translating this knowledge advantage into marketable products and services does not match this system. So key enabling technologies related manufacturing is decreasing in the European Union and patents are increasingly being exploited outside the Europe Union. So Europe is experiencing a renaissance of national sovereignty supported by nationalistic turn of public opinion. And also USA by withdrawing from the Paris climate change deal by pulling out of the joint comprehensive plan of action. And also European Union leaders now fear that the translating security guarantee will center not in alliances and common interests, but purchases of American technology and material. So the like the United States, the European Union has been forced to reconsider its relationship with the more assertive Russia, with implications for European security and stability. So the European Union has sought to support Ukraine's political transition, condemned Russia's annexation of Crimea in March 2014, and strongly urged Russia to stop backing separatist forces in eastern Ukraine. So, democratic regression in Ukraine combined with a hardening attitude in Moscow imposes constraints on the Ukrainian government's freedom of maneuver in pursuing its European Union membership. So, if we see the relationship between the European Union and India, the European Union works closely with India to promote peace, create jobs, boost economic growth, and enhance sustainable development across the country. As India graduated from low to medium income country, according to OECD 2014, the European Union and India cooperation also evolved from traditional financial assistance type towards a partnership with a focus on common priorities. At the 2017 European Union India Summit, leaders reiterated their intention to strengthen cooperation on the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and agreed to explore the continuation of the European Union India Development Dialogue. So, the European Union's is India's largest trading partner, uh, and also European Union's share in foreign investment inflows to India has more than doubled from 8% to 18% in the last decade, making the European Union is the first foreign investor in India. And also, European Union foreign direct investment stocks in India amounted around 73 uh, billion euros in 2016. So, India European Union bilateral trade and investment agreement. It's a free trade agreement between India and European Union, which was initiated in 2007. Even after a decade of negotiations, India and EU, European Union, have failed to resolve certain issues which have led to a deadlock. So, so India has rejected an informal attempt by the European Union to work towards a global investment agreement at the World Trade Organization. And also the non-tariff barriers in pharmaceuticals that European Union has imposed include requirement of World Trade Organization in good manufacturing practice certification, import bans, anti-dumping measures, and pre-shipment inspection among others. And also, India has cancelled most individual bilateral investment agreements with European Union member states on grounds that they were outdated. By doing this, India is putting pressure on European Union to sign these this type of agreements like bilateral trade and investment agreements. So the evolution of European Union has roots in looking for an integration of divided Europe because of excessive nationalism over a long period of time, which also witnessed two world wars. It has played an important role in improving economic conditions and raising living standard of people in weaker members of group. So this is the topic of European Union. So every regional organization also expected to develop their member states in the fields of economy and other science and technology based issues. So if we see the role of regional organizations in contemporary international politics, the world of 21st century is facing formidable challenges such as climate change, environmental issues, terrorism, violence by non-state actors, proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, energy security, drug trafficking and human trafficking and crime. Along with these political, security, and environmental challenges that the world faces and has to handle. It should also address the issues pertaining to economic integration because it is also highly imperative for facilitating trade and commerce, exchange of technology and innovations, seamless movement of people across countries, borders for raising the standard of living and improving the quality of life of the people around the world. So, besides, most of the regional organizations tend to work alongside well established multilateral organizations such as United Nations for the common weal of the world's humanity. So, the regional organizations have their task cut out for addressing and tackling all these issues. They are appropriately adapting and responding to the newly emerging challenges. So, so one more regional organization is there in our syllabus, that is BRICS. Here, BRICS means Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So the first letters of these uh, member states is BRICS. So BRICS is a an informal group of states which is formed by five states located in four different continents, and they are the Federated Republic of Brazil in South America, the Russian Federation in Europe, the Republic of India, and the Peoples of Republic of China located in Asian continent, and South Africa located in African continent. So the initiative for creating the BRICS grouping was taken up by the Russia. So the first BRICS ministerial meeting was held on the margins of United Nations General Assembly session in New York on 20 September 2006 at the proposal of the Russian President Vladimir Putin. The foreign ministers of Brazil, Russia, China, and the defense minister of India took part in the meeting. So these dignitaries expressed their profound interest in expanding the multilateral cooperation among them. So the guiding principles of the grouping is relations among the BRICS partners are built on the principle of United Nations Charter. Along with those principles, the norms of international law are also taken into consideration while maintaining the relationship by the states. Alongside this, the principles agreed upon these states at the 2009 summit meeting, like pragmatism, openness, solidarity, neutrality, and non-block nature with regard to third parties also guide the relations among these nations. So, the BRICS Leaders Summit is convened annually. If we see the structure of the BRICS is the BRICS does not exist in form of organization, but it is an annual summit between the supreme leaders of five nations. So the chairmanship of this forum is rotated annually among the members in accordance with the acronym BRICS, BRICS. So BRICS cooperation in the past decade has expanded to include an annual program of over 100 sectoral meetings. So the salient features of this BRICS union together, BRICS accounts for about 40% of the world's population, about 30% of GDP, making it a critical economic engine. It's an emerging investment market and global power block. If we see the genesis of this BRICS group, the acronym BRICS was initially formulated in 2001 by economist Jim O'Neill of Goldman Sachs in a report of growth prospects for the economies of Brazil, Russia, India, and China, which together represented a significant share of the world's production and population. In 2006, the four countries initiated a regular informal diplomatic coordination with annual meetings of foreign ministers at the margins of the general debate of the United Nations General Assembly. So these successful interaction lead to the decision that the dialogue was to be carried out at the level of heads of state and government in annual summits. So the objectives of these BRICS is the BRICS seeks to deepen, broaden, and intensify cooperation within the grouping and among the individual countries for more sustainable, equitable, and mutually beneficial development. And also, BRICS takes into consideration each member's growth, development, and poverty objectives to ensure relations are built on the respective countries' economic strengths and to avoid competition where possible. And also, BRICS is emerging as a new and promising political diplomatic entity with diverse objectives far beyond the original objective of reforming global financial institutions. So, if we see the basic areas of cooperation, the primary area is economic cooperation. There are rapidly growing trade and investment flows between BRICS countries as well as economic cooperation activities across a range of sectors. So, agreements have been concluded in the areas of economic and trade cooperation, innovation cooperation, customs cooperation, strategic cooperation between the BRICS Business Council, contingent reserve agreement, and the new developments bank. So these agreements contribute to realization of the shared objectives of deepening economic cooperation and fostering integrated trade and investment markets. So the people to people exchange is also there. BRICS members have recognized the need for strengthening people to people exchange and to foster closer operation in the areas of culture, sport, education, film, and youth. So, such people to people exchanges include the Young Diplomats Forum, Parliamentarian Forum, Trade Union Forum, Civil BRICS, as well as the Media Forum. So, there is political and security cooperation among this regional cooperation. BRICS members' political and security cooperation is aimed to achieving peace and security development and cooperation for more equitable and fair world. So BRICS provides opportunities for sharing policy advice and exchanges of best practices in terms of domestic and regional challenge, as well as advancing the restructuring of global political architecture so that is more balanced, resting on the pillar of multilateralism. So, BRICS is utilized as driver for South Africa's foreign policy priorities, including the pursuit of the African agenda and South-South cooperation. So, the impacts of BRICS on global institutional reforms, the main reason for cooperation is to start among the BRICS nation was the financial crisis of 2008. So, there are several challenges also there. The market dominance of big three, Russia, China, India is challenge for the BRICS as it moves ahead to become a true representative of large emerging markets across the world. BRICS must become pan-continental. Its membership must include more countries from the other regions and other continents. And also, the BRICS will need to expand its agenda for increasing its relevance in the global order. As of now, climate change and development finance aimed at building infrastructure dominate agenda. As BRICS move forward, fundamental principles of BRICS, that is respect for sovereign equality and pluralism in global governance, are liable to be tested as the five-member countries to pursue their own national agendas. Even the military standoff between India and China on the Doklam Plate, which has effectively brought to an end the naive notion that a comfortable political relationship is always possible amongst the BRICS members. If we see the importance for India with this BRICS organization, India can benefit a collective strength of BRICS by a way of consultation and cooperation on economic issues of mutual interest as well as topical global issues such as international terrorism, climate change, food and energy security, reforms of global governance institutions, etc. Even India remains engaged with the other BRICS countries on its energy membership, nuclear supplier group membership. So, the new development bank will help India to raise and avail resources for their infrastructure and sustainable development projects. So the new development bank has approved the first set of loans, which included a loan of US dollars in 250 million in respect of India for multi-trans financing facility for renewable energy financing scheme. So the BRICS did well in its first decade to identify issues of common interest and to create platforms to address these issues for BRICS to remain relevant over the next decade. Each of its members must make a realistic assessment of the initiatives, opportunities, and inherent limitations. So, the idea of setting up BRICS credit rating agency as proposed by India, opposite to Western agencies like Standard and Poor's, Moody's, etc., can be on BRICS future agenda. So, the BRICS should consider a BRICS lead effort to meet their commitments under the Paris Agreement on climate change and the UN's sustainable development goals. This could include setting up a BRICS energy alliance and an energy policy institution. So, this is the topic of BRICS. So, in tomorrow's class, we will discuss issues of global concern like energy and environment. So, so thank you for your participation. I am concluding the session. We will meet on next class on 9th at same timing 10:30 to 11:30. So we have class on 9th. Thank you for your participation.